You've got to spend money to make money, as the saying goes, but the same goes for saving it, and I can prove it, because the small upfront cost of adding hybrid power to the Toyota Highlander pays big dividends in the long run. $2,000 is all it takes to make the Highlander a hybrid, which is crazy cheap considering just how much this thing will save you in fuel every month. I've been cruising around the way I normally do, and I'm burning just over 6.5 liters per 100 kilometers, which is better than the tiny Toyota Yaris, yet there's more than enough room for your family and all your stuff inside. Now, it gets such low consumption because it replaces the V6 engine that comes in the conventional one with a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder and a couple different electric motors. There's one in the back that drives the rear wheels and a couple motor generators up front that help pump power back into the battery as well as drive the front wheels when you're cruising around. This thing isn't a plug-in hybrid the way the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV is, so there's no dedicated electric driving range, but honestly, I think this thing is perfect for a lot of people out there shopping for a 3-row SUV. There are some sacrifices you have to make when you switch to a hybrid like this, but they're definitely worth it considering just how much you'll save in gas and how quickly you'll realize those savings. Now, big SUVs like this aren't necessarily known for their efficiency, but this turns that on its head. If you look at the NRCan guide, this thing will save you almost $1,000 a year in fuel costs compared to the V6 version, which is absolutely insane. I don't know about you, but when it comes to wasting my money, I don't necessarily want to do it at the gas station every week, so I appreciate that this thing will put money back in my wallet so I can save it to spend on other stupid stuff. But my favorite part about a hybrid like this is that you don't have to drive it any differently than a conventional SUV. So that means you don't have to cruise around like Morty Seinfeld on his way to an early bird dinner. Just get in and go. You also don't have to worry about remembering whether you plugged it in last night to get that electric driving range. Just hop in, go and do your business like you would in a conventionally powered SUV. Sure, you can hypermile this thing if you want to try to eke out every last drop of fuel, but you don't have to. And that's the key to a conventional hybrid versus a plug-in one or a full electric vehicle. Take this week, I haven't been driving with a particular mind on fuel efficiency, yet I'm doing better than the NRCan rating in this thing. The trade-off is that this engine can feel just a little bit buzzy and it's pretty noisy, especially when you're merging on the highway, and that can be a bit of a bummer. It makes this 2.5 liter feel just a little ill-suited to the heft of this Highlander because it is a pretty big and bulky vehicle to begin with. Once you get up to cruising speed, you won't even notice that gas engine running at all, and it'll work pretty seamlessly with those electric motors to keep you cruising without much thought. Now, if you are a little bit more gentle on that throttle pedal, it'll take off under electric power, and that's where that rear electric motor comes in. It's also kind of cool the way the all-wheel drive system works. That's completely disconnected from the rest of the powertrain, and it kicks in under acceleration, cornering, or when the front wheels start to slip. But it is pretty cool the way it moves power around without being connected to the transmission or the motors up front. Something else I like about this Highlander is that it doesn't sacrifice usability in the name of efficiency, because so many hybrids stick their battery packs under the floor back here, which cuts into cargo room. But this thing has its battery pack under the second row seats, so there's as much cargo space as there is in the conventional model. The downside is that headroom suffers a bit because these seats sit a little bit higher, but if it's usually kids riding around back here, that shouldn't be a problem. Something else to think about is that this hybrid version can't move quite as much mass as the V6 version, and that's because of all the extra weight of the hybrid powertrain. Towing capacity drops from 5,000 pounds to 3,500, which is pretty significant, though I don't think that should keep it off your shopping list. In fact, I don't think anything should keep this off your shopping list. It's not that the V6 version is bad in any way, but this thing is just so damn good that I can't imagine looking at a Highlander and not considering this version. As far as the ride quality goes, I'd put this thing right up there with the Honda Pilot and Hyundai Palisade, only with the added bonus of burning way less gas. No, it's not quite as comfortable as the Segment King, which of course is the GMC Acadia Denali with the adaptive dampers that I reviewed a couple weeks ago. And if you didn't watch that review, make sure to watch it after this, and don't forget to subscribe so you catch all the latest stuff we have coming up. But if that's the pinnacle of this segment, this thing is a close second, and that is pretty high praise considering it's a hybrid. The ride is a little stiff, but that has more to do with the structure itself than the suspension, and you probably won't feel most stuff out on your daily drive. Another thing to point out is that there is a bit of body roll, and it does like to pull to the outside of corners when you're turning. But don't forget, this thing has a pretty high center of gravity, and it doesn't matter how low into the chassis they tuck that battery pack, you're still gonna feel it when you're riding on 8 inches of ground clearance. Something else I really like in this Highlander, and I can't believe I'm about to say it, is this infotainment system. To quote one of my favorite Christmas movies, hallelujah, holy sh**, where's the Tylenol? Because this thing is good, and that's not something you've been able to say about Toyota infotainment systems in recent years, but the brand really knocked it out of the park this time. It's crisp, it's responsive, it's bright, it's got so much going for it, and there's Apple CarPlay and Android Auto support. But one of my favorite things is that with this 12.3-inch touchscreen you get in the loaded model, you can have a couple different things open at once. So I've got my CarPlay in 2/3 of the screen, and the other third is saved to display things like HVAC or radio controls, or a cool energy monitor so I can keep track of how much electricity I'm using versus how much gas. If there was one downside to this system, it's that the rear view camera doesn't look all that great, and it is pretty distorted. It's just disappointing for what's otherwise an excellent system. The reason I have this big screen is that I'm driving the loaded Platinum model, but there's tons of good stuff throughout the rest of the lineup, and the biggest deal is safety. Now, Toyota committed to putting its safety equipment in all vehicles moving forward, and it's coming to fruition with vehicles like this. You've got everything from blind spot monitoring to lane keep assist, automatic emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection, and adaptive cruise control, all throughout the entire Highlander trim range. Very impressive, and I tip my cap to Toyota for doing that. Now, some people, including my boss, have complained about the way Toyota's adaptive cruise control system works, and they say it keeps too big of a gap between you and the vehicle in front, which gives other drivers a chance to cut you off. But honestly, I don't have a problem with the way it works. One thing I do have a problem with, though, is the lane keep assist system in here. Now, it's got a lane centering function that's supposed to keep you tracking dead center in your lane of travel, but I find it's constantly ping-ponging you from one set of lane markings to the next, and I ended up shutting it off after a little while because it's annoying and a little bit dangerous. But the rest of the safety gear works really well without too much intrusion. It doesn't beep and flash like crazy when you get within a football field's length of another vehicle, and it just kind of goes about its business. Like I said, I'm driving the loaded version, so just about everything you could want is along for the ride. I do wish there was a Wi-Fi hotspot like you get from Ford, GM, and Honda, but almost everything else is here. I've got heated and ventilated front seats, heated rear seats, a heated steering wheel, and a tri-zone automatic climate control system that blows ice cold air. There's also 5 USB ports in here and a couple household outlets so you can keep your stuff charged on the go. But the best part is a lot of that stuff is included in every hybrid trim, so you don't have to step all the way up to this most expensive version to get the stuff you want. If I had a complaint about this cabin though, it would be that some of these plastics feel a little bit cheap. If you take a look at the doors and dash, you'll definitely notice it feeling a little bit down market. Take the plastic on this gauge cluster, definitely doesn't feel like it's in $56,000 territory, but that is a small nit to pick for what's a pretty great cabin overall. A lot of the materials in here are nice, including this leather in the Platinum version, though I will say it is a little bit understated to the point of looking boring. Now, you can get some other cool color options, including a nice caramel leather, but since I have this upgraded red paint, my only choice is this black. Okay, so it's time to talk money. Now, the cheapest Highlander Hybrid you can buy will set you back $45.5 grand, competitive with gas-powered rivals like the Pilot, Palisade, and Subaru Ascent among the growing list in this competitive class. There are 3 trims to get through from there up to this Platinum version that's priced at $56,000 before freight, fees, and taxes. Yes, that's a lot of money, but it's not out of line with top-of-the-line competitors. And then when you consider that this thing has a hybrid powertrain, it looks pretty good. Again, that's only $2 grand more than a similar gas-powered version, and that's money you should make back within a couple of years. To recap, I like that the Highlander Hybrid drives like any other SUV, but it also offers compact car efficiency and the same amount of cargo room as the conventional version. I don't like the way the gas engine drones under acceleration, the limited second row headroom, or some of the plastics inside. So am I saying you should buy a Highlander Hybrid? I mean, if you're shopping for a 3-row SUV, I don't see why not. It's got everything a conventional one's got, with the added bonus of serious savings on your fuel bill. Yeah, that gas engine is a little buzzy when it kicks in, but it's a sacrifice worth making considering everything else it's got going for it.